set up on the second device. So we can get good visibility. Uh-oh, second device isn't booted. Looks like we might be flying solo for a bit. I think we gotta get moving, so we'll just let that boot. And get to our text for the evening. Now it's not booting. I thought I put the code in right. Maybe it's out of battery. Oh, there it goes. Now it's booting. Alright. Let's go for the Bible. I'm super tired, but I thought I should at least go to the Lord sometime and try to read some and stay connected to Him in ways that are good and right. So that's what we're going to attempt to do. Let me get blue light filter off here and a little more brightness so I can see what I'm reading. Try to stay awake. This morning we were in Gospel of John and Luke, so that's what these details are for. That must be that battery. Let me see if I can plug it in real quick. We'll get going. Build up the juice. Use a flash on that if I could get better lighting. Maybe. Is that gonna help? It's not on, huh? Oh. Definitely was on. Okay, let's see if that was. Alright, here we go. I need to navigate to use my right hand so I'm not in the way of the camera. Books of the Bible, Genesis. Oh, I don't remember which chapter we were in. Let's look at our history. That's all from this morning at church. And the last book we jumped to is Genesis 23. I know we were in the 30s though. Abraham's death, Isaac's sin, Jacob's deception. Wi-Fi here. A minute. Jacob meets Rachel. Let's see what we got. Sons of Jacob. I think I remember Jacob's fear of Esau. I think I remember Jacob meeting Esau. I think I remember the treachery of Jacob's sons. That was a brutal chapter. Looks kind of familiar. Ah, yes, I remember Jacob being named Israel, so I wasn't sure how I wanted to pronounce that. I tend to pronounce it Israel. Birth of Benjamin. I think I remember this because I remember Esau being named Edom. A lot of names. That was a tough section to read well. Okay. I do not remember chapter 37. I think that's where we can start then. Alright, looks like this is booted. Let me see if I can get Twitch going on my viewers. That way I can keep the camera pretty well organized here. Shouldn't be making sound. Okay. Go live. Nice. Alright, so I'm seeing the stream. Good. Alright. Let's go. Genesis, chapter 37. Now Jacob lived in the land where his father had sojourned, in the land of Canaan. These are the records of the generations of Jacob. Joseph, when 17 years of age, was pasturing the flock with his brothers while he was still a youth, along with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought back a bad report about them to their father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his sons, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a varicolored tunic. His brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, and so they hated him, and could not speak to him on friendly terms. Then Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. He said to them, "Please listen to this dream which I have had. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf rose up and also stood erect, and behold, the sheaves gathered around and bowed down to my sheaf." Then his brothers said to him, "Are you actually going to reign over us? Or are you really going to rule over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Now he had still another dream, and related it to his brothers, and said, "Lo, I have had still another dream. And behold, the sun and moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me." He related it to his father and to his brothers, and his father rebuked him and said to him, "What is this dream that you have had? Shall I and your mother and your brothers actually come and bow ourselves before you to the ground?" His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept these things in mind. Then his brothers went to pasture their father's flock in Shechem. Israel said to Joseph, "Are your brothers pasturing the flock in Shechem? Are not your brothers pasturing the flock in Shechem? Come, I will send you to them." And he said to him, "I will go." Then he said to him, "Go now and see about the welfare of your brothers and the welfare of the flock, and bring word back to me." So he sent him from the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. A man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, "What are you looking for?" He said, "I am looking for my brothers. Please tell me where they are pasturing the flock." Then the man said, "They have moved from here, for I heard them say, 'Let us go to Dothan.'" So Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dothan. When they saw him from a distance, and before he came close to them, they plotted against him to put him to death. Then they said to one another, "Here comes that dreamer. Here comes this dreamer. Now then, come, let us kill him, and throw him into one of the pits, and we will say, 'A wild beast has devoured him.' Then let us see what will become of his dreams." But Reuben heard this, and rescued him out of their hands, and said, "Let us not take his life." Reuben further said to them, "Shed no blood. Throw him into this pit that is in the wilderness, but do not lay a hand on him, that he might rescue him out of their hands to restore him to his father." So it came about, when Joseph reached his brothers, they stripped Joseph of his tunic, the varicolored tunic that was on him. And they took him and threw him into the pit. Now the pit was empty, without any water in it. Then they sat down to eat a meal. And they raised their eyes and looked. Behold, a caravan of Ishmaelites was coming from Gilead, with their camels bearing aromatic gum and balm and myrrh, on their way to bring them down to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, What profit is it for us to kill our brother and cover up his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay our hands on him, for he is our brother, our own flesh. And his brothers listened to him. Then some of the Midianite traders passed by, so they pulled him up and lifted Joseph out of the pit, sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. Thus they brought Joseph into Egypt. Now Reuben returned to the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit, so he tore his garments. He looked to his brothers and said, The boy is not there. As for me, where am I to go? So they took Joseph's tunic and slaughtered a male goat and dipped the tunic in the blood. And they sent the varicolored tunic and brought it to their father and said, We found this. Please examine it to see whether it is your son's tunic or not. Then he examined it and said, It is my son's tunic. A wild beast has devoured him. Joseph has surely been torn to pieces. So Jacob tore his clothes and put sackcloth on his loins and mourned for his son many days. Then all his sons and all his daughters arose to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, Surely I will go down to Sheol in mourning for my son. So his father wept for him. Meanwhile, the Midianites sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, Pharaoh's officer, the captain of the bodyguard. Ooh, getting into some rough stuff coming up here. In 38, this is not G-rated, that's for sure. Go ahead and dive in and see if we can learn what the Lord would have to speak to us and through us in this text. And as you can tell by the yawns, I am super tired. I'll do the best that we can. I have some more time to invest today before I run out and enter into sleep and get some rest. Genesis chapter 38. And it came about at that time that Judah departed from his brothers and visited a certain Adulamite whose name was Hira. Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite whose name was Shua, and he took her and went into her. So she conceived and bore a son, and he named him Then she conceived again and bore a son and named him Onan. She bore still another son and named him Shelah. And it was at Chizib that she bore him. Now Judah took a wife from for his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But Judah's firstborn, was evil in the sight of the Lord. So the Lord took his life. Then Judah said to Onan, Go into your brother's wife and perform your duty as a brother-in-law, and raise up offspring for your brother. Onan knew that the offspring would not be his, so when he went into his brother's wife, he wasted his seed on the ground, in order not to give offspring to his brother. But what he did was displeasing in the sight of the Lord, so he took his life also. Then Judah said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, Remain a widow in your father's house until my son Shelah grows up. For he thought, I am afraid that he may die like his brothers. So Tamar went and lived lived in her father's house. Now after a considerable time, Shua's daughter, the wife of Judah, died. And when the time of mourning was ended, Judah went up to his sheep shearers at Timnah, he and his friend Hira the Adulamite. It was told to Tamar, "Behold, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep." So she removed her widow's garments and covered herself with a veil, and wrapped herself and sat in the gateway of Edalim. Is that right? Sat in the gateway of Enaim, which is on the road to Timnah, for she was that. How does this work? For she saw that Shelah had grown up, and she had not been given him as a wife. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a harlot, for she had covered her face. So he turned aside to her by the road and said, "Here now, let me come in to you." For he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, "What will you give me, that you may come in to me?" He said, "Therefore I will send you a young goat from the flock." She said, "Moreover, will you give me a pledge until you send it?" He said, "What pledge shall I give you?" And she said, "Your seal, and your cord, and your staff that is in your hand. So he gave them to her, and he went into her, and she conceived by him. Then she arose and departed, and removed her veil, and put on her widow's garments. When Judah sent the young goat by his friend, the Adulamite, who received the pledge from the woman's hand, did not find her. He asked the men in her place, saying, "Where is the temple prostitute who was by the road to Enaim?" But they said, "There has been no temple prostitute here." So he returned to Judah and said, "I did not find her." And furthermore, the men of the place said, "There has been no temple prostitute here." Then Judah said, "Let her keep them, otherwise we will become a laughingstock. After all, I sent this young goat, but you did not find her." Now it was about 3 months later that Judah was informed, "Your daughter-in-law Tamar has played the harlot, and behold, she is with child by harlotry." Then Judah said, "Bring her out, and let her be burned." It was while she was being brought out that she sent to her father-in-law, saying, "I am with child by the man to whom these things belong." And she said, "Please examine and see whose signet ring and cords and staff are these." Judah recognized them and said, "She is more righteous than I, inasmuch as I did not give her to my son Shelah, and he did not have relations with her again." It came about at the time she was giving birth, that behold, there were twins in her womb. Moreover, it took place while she was giving birth, that one put out a hand, and the midwife took the hand and tied a scarlet thread on his hand, saying, "This one came out first." But it came about as he drew back his hand that behold, his brother came out. Then she said, "What a breach you have made for yourself." So he was named Perez. Afterward his brother came out, who had the scarlet thread on his hand, and he was named Zerah. There's chapter 37, 38. Doesn't appear that I can see details on this video. Okay, so I'm super sleepy, so I'm gonna try relocating. Maybe see if we can get one more chapter. But you probably notice I'm falling asleep while just trying to read the Bible. which is not good. Not where we want to be. Let me go ahead and stand up, get some light. Oh. We can give this another go here. Let's get over to a little bit of a safer spot if I start to fall asleep standing up, which has almost happened once, so I wouldn't put it fully past me. I really want to read some scripture, honor God tonight, so I'm going to try to do that. Genesis chapter 39. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an Egyptian officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the bodyguard, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him down there. Then the Lord was with Joseph, so he became a successful man, and he was in the house of his master the Egyptian. Now his master saw that the Lord was with him, and how the Lord caused all that he did to prosper in his hand. So Joseph found favor in his sight and became his personal servant, and he made him overseer of his house, and all that he owned he put in his charge. It came about that from the time he made him overseer in his house, and over all that he owned, the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house on account of Joseph. Thus the Lord's blessing was upon all that he owned, in the house and in the field. So he left everything he owned in Joseph's charge. With him there he did not concern himself with anything except the food which he ate. Now Joseph was handsome in form and appearance. It came about after these events that his master's wife looked with desire at Joseph, and she said, "Lie with me." But he refused, and said to his master's wife, "Behold, with me here my master does not concern himself with anything in the house, and he has put all that he owns in my charge. There is no greater in this house than I, and he has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do this great evil and sin against God?" As she spoke to Joseph day after day, he did not listen to her, to lie beside her or be with her. Now it happened one day that he went into the house to do his work, and none of the men of the household were inside. She caught him by his garment, saying, "Lie with me." And he left his garment in her hand, and fled and went outside. When she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and fled outside, she called to the men of the household, and said to them, "See, he has brought a Hebrew in to make sport of us. He came in to lie with me, and I screamed. When he heard that I raised my voice and screamed, he left his garment beside me and fled and went outside." So she left his garment beside her until his master came home. Then she spoke to him with these words, "The Hebrew slave whom you brought to us came in to me to make sport of me. And as I raised my voice and screamed, he left his garment beside me and fled outside." Now when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spoke to him, saying, "This is what your slave did to me," his anger burned. So Joseph's master took him and put him in the jail, the place where the king's prisoners were confined, and he was there in the jail. But the Lord was with Joseph, and extended kindness to him, and gave him favor in the sight of the chief jailer. The chief jailer committed to Joseph's charge all the prisoners who were in the jail, so that whatever was done there, he was responsible for it. The chief jailer did not supervise anything under Joseph's charge, because the Lord was with him, and whatever he did, the Lord made to prosper. All right, we made it one more chapter. There's some really interesting stuff there. The be with him, I'm pretty sure, is referring to an intimate relationship. Back when it's talking about what Potiphar's wife is encouraging or trying to seek from Joseph. And then the other thing I just continue to find interesting in the story of Joseph is this let's see. First part here. But the Lord was with him. This is a repeated theme when he shows up in Egypt. But the Lord was with him when he was thrown in prison. But the Lord was with him. And it seems like his success is predicated not on his ability or his merit, but on the Lord being with him. I think that often for myself, I tend to take the focus off of that. That the success, the reality of that which is good and right being wrought in our lives and our hearts comes about from the transformative work of God, not some sort of innate part inside of me or us. So it's some points there that I think are interesting. I think we could give chapter 40 an attempt. I have a little time left in my commitment. Well, not really. Why don't we call it there for the night? We'll start with chapter 40 tomorrow night, Lord willing. Thanks for watching. I'm just having a blast creating some content, and it's good accountability for me to really try to get in the scriptures often for myself and, Lord willing, for others as well. All right. Adios.